Hey there, crafty crew. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on waffle wax melts with syrup drizzle and some pecan wax melts to go with them. I have a separate tutorial on how to make your own silicone mold linked down in the description below. As usual, if you have any questions or crafty requests, please leave them down in the comments. Okay, now let's get into everything that we're going to need to make our wax melts. First, we need our chosen wax. This needs to be a wax that is hard enough to handle being demolded without breaking. A means of melting your wax like a Presto pot or double boiler. I'll be using a Presto pot. Fragrance oil. This is pumpkin pecan waffles from Virginia Candle Supply. A stirring tool, a scale, something to measure your fragrance into, a thermometer, a pouring pitcher, a mini waffle silicone mold, a pecan silicone mold. Once again, the tutorial for how I made this mold in particular is down in the description, but you can absolutely find a pre-made one online instead. 2 condiment bottles. Remember that condiment bottles are usually labeled with measures of volume, so if they say 12 ounces, that is 12 ounces in volume, and they will not hold 12 ounces of wax in weight. Paper towels, orange and brown candle dyes, a baking pan, or if you'd prefer, use a flat surface and cover it with either wax or parchment paper. Or if you don't mind cleaning up your flat surface afterward, you don't have to cover it at all. Lastly, toothpicks. Sometimes these are needed during the process. Now let's get into the process. First, we will begin by turning on our Presto pot and letting it get to temperature and then prepping our supplies, or by prepping our supplies and then double boiling our wax. While my melter is heating up, I will go ahead and prepare the rest of my supplies. For this mold in particular, I know that I will need 5.4 ounces of my chosen wax, and I will be using a 10% fragrance load. So I will measure out 0.54 ounces of fragrance. And now that the wax has reached temperature, we can measure out the 5.4 ounces that we will need for this mold. Then we will add our brown dye and stir it in. Be sure that if your wax has specific temperatures for things like pouring, adding fragrance and such, that you are checking your temperature along the way. For my wax in particular, I add my wax and my dye immediately, and then I pour directly after that has been stirred in. Next, we will add fragrance and stir that in. Then we will pour this into the condiment bottle and wrap the paper towel around it so that we don't burn our hand. Then we use the condiment bottle to fill all of the cavities of the waffle mold. As you're filling the cavities, you may need to periodically squeeze your condiment bottle to continue the flow of the wax. Be sure that you're not squeezing it too hard though. Just a gentle squeeze is good enough. Note, this is where the toothpick might come in handy. Sometimes the wax likes to cool a little faster than expected when it's in the tip of the condiment bottle, so inserting a toothpick through that tip helps continue the flow of wax. So if you notice that your wax is not coming out of the bottle, don't squeeze harder and harder. Just grab a toothpick and stick it through the tip and everything should be fine going forward. Now that we have our waffles poured, we can let those fully cool and get started on our pecans. The measurements for the wax and fragrance needed for the pecans will vary from person to person because each mold may be made differently. So once you figure out how much wax you need to fill your pecan mold in particular, go from there with your fragrance load and your dye. Now that we have our wax, let's go ahead and add in the brown dye and stir that in. If you need to, you can test along the way and see how dark your color will be of your wax by just putting some of that wax on a paper towel or on your table if you don't mind scraping that off later. Then we add our fragrance and stir that in. Then we can pour this into our condiment bottle to fill our pecan cavities. And now we will just let everything set until they are fully cool. Okay, now we are ready to add the syrup drizzle to our waffles. Now we can weigh out the wax that we need and go ahead and add the dye, and if you opted to add fragrance, go ahead and add that as well. And drizzle that over. Doing the drizzle is pretty simple. All you need to do is quickly move your bottle over all of your waffles that are on your pan or flat surface. After we've finished the drizzle, we just need to let that fully cool down. And once that has fully cooled, we can go ahead and package our waffles and pecans wax melts in any way that we like. If you enjoyed this video and you got value from it, go ahead and drop a like. And if you would like to see future videos, go ahead and subscribe. Happy making!